Hey guys, welcome back to Horsepower Obsessed. Today we're going to talk about the C7 Corvette and what appears to be its final goodbye. Now, before we get into the final edition of the C7 Corvette, I wanted to kind of go over all of the models that have existed since 2014. The very first model to be released, of course, was the Corvette Stingray. This car basically came in two different performance specifications. The first one was basically just the base model, the Corvette Stingray base model. And then if you added the Z51 package, you got larger rotors, larger front and rear rims, the NPP performance exhaust, and the magnetic ride control. Basically a more rounded, track-ready car. Now, both of these cars were quite a radical change from your typical Corvette. They had a much more exotic Ferrari-esque look about them. They drew a lot of attention. The car itself in the performance Z51 package could have as much as 460 horsepower. In 2014, 460 horsepower, of course, was a pretty good amount of horsepower to have in a car, and it was basically the most that a base model Corvette has ever seen. The interior was much improved on from prior years of the Corvette. It had a lot more premium materials, more leather, aluminum, and carbon fiber, as well as the seats. You got a choice of your touring seat or the competition seat. And they were both quite comfortable, both built very well, and really fit the styling of the car much more than it had in previous years. Now, even with how great the Stingray was when it first came out in 2014, everybody always wants more when it comes to performance. So in 2015, Chevy decided to bring out the Corvette Z06. Again, with the Z06, you had two separate performance packages. You had the Z06 and the Z06 with the Z07 package. The base model, quote-unquote Z06, improved on the Stingray in many different ways, but most notably the 650 horsepower LT4 that was basically a beefed up supercharged version of the LT1 that the Stingray came with. Alongside that, you also had a slightly wider stance of the car, wider rear and wider front tires than the Stingray had. Also came stock with larger front and rear rotors, magnetic ride control as a default option, more aero to keep the car more firmly planted on the ground, as well as a slew of other performance options. The biggest one, most notably, would be the Z07 package. Just like the Z51 for the Corvette Stingray, the Z07 offered further improvements to the car's performance on top of the Z06. For the Z07, you got a more tuned for the track suspension package, carbon ceramic rotors, stickier Sport Cup 2 tires, and much more aggressive Stage 3 aero throughout the entire car. All of that combined built one of the most track-ready Corvette Z06s to date and really started putting the Corvette on the map as far as performance goes. Again, with the Z06, it was still the styling and the ability to catch someone's eye that really sold these cars. They had a very exotic look about them. The Z06 improved on that even over top of the Stingray, and it really helped push these cars out the door. And of course, everybody knows of the Corvette Z06's shortcomings. It had issues, especially in the 2015 and 2016 cars, of overheating while on the track. This was something that was really limited to the automatics. The manual transmissions, I haven't personally heard of any issues with as far as overheating. And at the 2018 Corvettes at Carlisle, I actually heard one of the GM engineers speaking about how there has never been a recorded incident of the manual transmission overheating at the track. So even though Chevy built their most track-ready Corvette to date, some of them weren't so track-ready. In 2017, the fans spoke up and GM listened, and they decided to release the Grand Sport C7 Corvette. What the Grand Sport basically was the powertrain of the Stingray in the body of the Z06. So basically you get that same 460 horsepower, the wider stance of the Z06, the wider tires, the magnetic ride control, and all the other benefits you could get from the Z06 package. That even included, as options, the carbon ceramic rotors. So basically, the Grand Sport was literally just the powertrain out of the Stingray, put into a Z06 body. So naturally you had a less expensive C7 Corvette that looked like a Z06, performed like a Stingray, and still had all the great looks that the C7 Corvette had to offer. Of course, with the Grand Sport, adding the Z07 package, which, like I said earlier, gives you those carbon ceramic rotors, also could get you better aero, the Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, almost everything the Z07 package had to offer. So if you were looking for a car that was built specifically for the track and didn't have any issues with overheating, if an automatic option was in your future, this was the car to get. This is the easiest car to take to the track because of all the track options you get, and you wouldn't have the issue of overheating if you chose the automatic. The Grand Sport also had a few different color combinations that weren't offered in any other model. One of which one of my good friends over at Front Seat Driver has, and it was a special edition with the tension blue interior. So this particular color is really something else. It is the only model you can get this color interior on, and it is accompanied by the Watkins Glen gray exterior color. The C7 Corvette Grand Sport had a lot of different special edition packages available. The Grand Sport Collector Edition, like I spoke of a second ago, was one of them. You could also get the Carbon 65 in a Grand Sport or a Z06, and that of course came in a special ceramic matrix gray color, as well as having most of the exterior accessories shown in exposed carbon fiber. Now, as usual with most performance-oriented car people, the 650 horsepower of the Z06 and the 460 of the Stingray or Grand Sport was just not enough. They had to have more, and then GM listened again, and we get the C7 Corvette ZR1. This, as of now, is the top dog for the C7 Corvette lineup, and it comes stock with a blistering 755 horsepower. This car, again, comes in two different performance variations. You can either get your Corvette ZR1, or you can choose to option it out with the ZTK track performance package. If you do the ZTK, you get a higher rise spoiler in the rear, which is already a massive size spoiler, and it actually can create up to 900 pounds of downforce on that rear end. You also get your Pilot Super Sport Cup 2 tires, and you get the removable carbon fiber end caps for the front splitter. So very similar to the Z06 with the Z07 package, you get added aero, stickier tires, and carbon ceramic rotors. Now with the ZR1, carbon ceramic rotors are the only option. But with the base model, quote unquote, ZR1, you don't get the Sport Cup 2 tires, you don't get the end caps for the front splitter, and you get a spoiler that is lower to the actual trunk lid. As I said earlier, the ZTK is the track performance package. It is built for the track, and that rear spoiler is actually capable of putting down 900 pounds of downforce on the rear end to really keep that thing planted during turns on a track. Now, one of the biggest things Chevy set out to fix with the ZR1 was the overheating issues with the Z06. In the ZR1, you can have the manual or automatic transmission options, and they opened up the front bumpers so much more and provided so many more coolers that this car literally will not overheat, whether it's an automatic or a manual on the track. Of course, that's a fantastic thing. That's what everybody expects when they buy a track-oriented car, that it's going to be able to handle going to the track. And with the ZR1, that's exactly what you get. Now, with all the models talked about, of course, there has been a lot of discussion about the C8 Corvette that's coming soon. There's not a lot about that car that is known for sure, nothing really that is set in stone. Most of it is just rumors, hearsay, and renderings that are found on the internet of what people think the car is going to look like. There had been rumors that the C7 Corvette was going to be manufactured right alongside the C8, which I never fully expected that to be the case, but it would have been interesting. Now, Chevy has finally come out and started selling the car that they are literally calling the Final Edition. So just like we had the Grand Sport Collector Edition and the Carbon 65 Edition, now we have one that's literally branded Final Edition. Now, obviously, as the name implies, this is likely to be the last C7 sold. We're not going to get any more special editions after this. This is it. This is the Final Edition. And in my opinion, this is likely the car that's just going to be sold to use up any leftover inventory. Now, the biggest reason I say that is there had been actual talks about this particular car, and the options that it's going to offer. One of which is carbon ceramic rotors. You can't get the car with anything but. So it sounds to me like they're trying to push that to get all the remaining carbon ceramic rotors they have out the door. Another option is competition seats. Cannot have any other seats other than those competition seats, and those in the past have been a special ordered option. Even on the ZR1, competition seats were not standard. Again, kind of sounds to me like they are trying to get their leftover inventory out the door. Now, with all that said, let's talk about what options you do get with this car. The C7 Final Edition is only available in a Grand Sport or a Z06. So very similar to the Carbon 65, you can choose between a Grand Sport or the Z06 for this Final Edition C7 Corvette. Colors, you only get two. You're either getting the Ceramic Matrix Gray or the Sebring Orange tint coat. The car also comes with black Napa leather as a default option. Again, in previous models, the Napa leather was only in the 3LT or 3LZ trim. Also has the suede microfiber accents on the interior. Again, another option that was only offered on the higher trim packages for the Z06, Grand Sport, and Stingray. Now, another interesting thing about this particular car, it is called the Final Edition, and it is only available in Europe. We're not able to get it here in the United States. The Grand Sport based Final Edition is going to retail for €116.5, and the Z06 is going to retail for €139.5. That is $133,000 US and $159,000, almost $160,000 US respectively. To look at the car, other than that fancy Final Edition graphic on the side, it doesn't look any different than your typical Grand Sport or Z06 car. And I do actually think it's interesting that Chevy would release a car with the name Final Edition, knowing that everybody who hears that is going to definitely know the C8's coming, and this is literally the last bit of the C7 we're going to see. Now, of course, it's been talked about a lot. Like I said earlier, the C8 is definitely coming. Corvette Racing has talked about it on different occasions about switching over to the C8R for the 2020 racing year. It's not a secret. Everybody knows the C8's coming at this point, but having GM release a car that's literally called the Final Edition was a surprise to me. Even though we knew it was coming, I didn't think that they would necessarily admit it, so to speak, by releasing this Final Edition like this. It's an interesting looking car, and of course there's plenty of special editions for the C7 to go around. This is just one more, and like I said, I think it's really just a way for them to get rid of unused inventory at this point. But I think this is going to be the C7 Corvette's final swan song. I'm obviously a big fan of the C7 Corvette. I personally own a Z06 with the Z07 package, and I am going to be very sad to see this car go. It's been a fantastic car. The C7 generation has really just opened my eyes in a different way to the whole Corvette lineup. And honestly, there really isn't much I'd change about the C7. With that said, of course, the C8 is going to replace it, and I can't wait to see what GM brings out. It's going to be tough for them to really beat the C7 in my eyes, but if they bring out a car that just blows it away, it is going to be something phenomenal. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about this Final Edition C7 Corvette? Obviously, not a lot has changed, but at the same time, it's basically GM's way of saying C7's done. Get ready for the C8. So let me know what you think down below. Give me a big thumbs up if you liked the video. Subscribe if you haven't. And as always, guys, I'll catch you in the next upload.